Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of RAU'S IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates. Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, your one-stop solution to detailed analysis of current affairs which are published in the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper. Articles dated 8th of May 2021 which are put up for today's discussion are listed on your screen and the time stamping for the same is given in the description box. So let us start with the first article itself. Well, before going into the video itself, there's an important announcement. If you are confused about which optional subject to choose, how to find the best teachers and academic support for your optional papers, and above all, how to prepare for the same during difficult times, well, look no further. RAU'S IAS has best solution for your optional subjects and related problems. We are conducting optional orientation session on 22nd and 29th May 2021, in which you can learn from RAU'S IAS teachers about how to prepare for optional subjects and how are we going to help you in scoring best in the mains examination. Optional batches are starting from 4th June and 5th July 2021 via live online classes. Consider this as a call to all those who wish to completely cover the optional subject by December this year. This will ensure timely coverage of optional paper, optional subjects, and then you can focus on your attention towards the prelims right from the January next year. And also keep revising the optional subjects till you appear for the mains examination. RAU'S IAS is offering guidance for political science, public administration, history, sociology, geography, economics and psychology from their centers at Delhi, Jaipur and Bangalore. In the description of this video, there's a link which you can use to register yourself for the orientation program for the respective subject sessions. The first article in today's discussion lineup is related to the patent protection at the international level. Now, going by the context, the editorial is dealing with the recent proposal by the US to waive off patent protection to those goods and services that targets fight against the COVID pandemic. Now, what happened recently was that the United States President Joe Biden has said that US is ready to waive off the patents which are provided to the goods and services in order to provide technology transfer to other countries, including India. The editorial and the writer has completely argued that the current patent protection across the globe, which is functioning under the TRIPS mission or the TRIPS agreement of World Trade Organization, should get some waivers and it should be dropped as far as fight against the pandemic is concerned. Earlier, India and South Africa gave a proposal in the World Trade Organization to waive off tight patent regime on equipments and supplies for COVID preparation. But the nations like US, UK, Australia, European Union, Norway, Switzerland and Japan were against this proposal. Now, why they feel this? Because they think the commercialization of these patents have actually benefited these countries, and as we know, most of them are out of the pandemic as of now. And now they are trying to get the best advantages of the commercial goods which are fighting for this. These countries argue that if they protect their patents, the companies which are holding those patents will earn billions of dollars and that will help these countries. The second argument which is given by these countries include the argument that such kind of patents are given to the research and development and long drawn research proposal. However, as we have discussed in many other DNS previously, these arguments are not worthwhile or most of them are baseless. The research which was undertaken by these organizations or these countries are mostly financed by the government authorities and international organizations. So, providing a commercial or a complete cover to these patents will go against the health security and right to health across the world. All the important argument related to the recent announcement by the US President has already been covered by the DNS dated 7th May 2021, that is yesterday. So if you want to go into the details of those articles, you can go through the link in the end of this video to get more details. What we will put up for today's discussion is that the current status of IPR in India, and the different components of IPR across the world, including those in India. IPR, or intellectual property rights, was first recognized under these two international conventions. First was Paris Convention for the Protection of Industrial Property 1883. This is far long drawn agreement. The second is Berne Convention for Protection of Literary and Artistic Work. These agreements and the components of IPR have been extended far beyond these two products. It has now been extended, including the geographical indication, industrial circuits, designs, and many others, which we will discuss very shortly. Both these conventions are administered by World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO. It is a very important UN organization and you should know or you should have basic ideas about it. IPRs have been outlined in Article 27 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now you can see that intellectual property is also becoming a part of the human rights. So if you are violating the intellectual property, ultimately you are also violating the human rights of a person. Secondly, World Trade Organization governs IPR through trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. This is an international agreement which came into being since the WTO came into the existence in 1995, and this was one of the culmination of the Uruguay round which started way back in mid-1980s. This agreement or this entire regime provides a protection and a legal enforcement of intellectual property across the world, especially those nations which are part of World Trade Organization. Now let us see something about WIPO. WIPO is one of the 15 specialized agencies of United Nations. WIPO was created to promote and protect the intellectual property across the world by cooperating with countries. So they are not enforcing these agreements or these provisions through any coercion or force. It is more like a cooperating effort. So WIPO began its operation in 1978. The headquarters of WIPO is at Geneva, Switzerland, and WIPO currently has 193 members. You should never get confused with WIPO being an organization under WTO. WTO has provided TRIPS and WIPO actually provides cooperation to impose IPR. On the other hand, WTO provides enforcement of TRIPS. Beyond TRIPS, WTO is not concerned about IPR. However, WIPO is concerned beyond TRIPS as well. WIPO's activity includes hosting forums to discuss and shape international IP rules. WTO does not do that. And policies providing global services that register and protect IP in different countries. Resolving transboundary IP disputes. It also helps in connecting the intellectual property system through uniform standards and infrastructure, and serving a general reference database on all IP matters. Now through this you can easily understand that there is a basic difference. World Trade Organization enforce TRIPS, in which what we see is that there is enforcement of legal rights. On the other hand, WIPO, which is under UN, actually promotes IPR through cooperation. So this is the basic difference between both these organizations and their functioning as far as intellectual property is concerned. Now we look into the different types of intellectual property in India and their enforcement for different purposes. The first being the patent itself. It is given to a new product and a process. So both product and process are provided intellectual property protection. In India, Patents Act or Indian Patents Act 1970 is the legal measure which enforces patents. It is under the DPIIT or Ministry of Commerce. It is applicable for 20 years. So once a patent is provided, it is provided for the maximum period of 20 years. The second being the trademark. Trademark is a given name, word, phrase, logo, symbol, design, image, or even the combination of these elements. Now, if I draw a simple symbol, can you identify the trademark on this? Well, I believe most of you must have. This is Mercedes. If I draw another trademark, can you identify? Yes, this is Facebook. So these are the kind of trademarks which are used on multiple grounds. It could be any name also. So an apparel company has a trademark like this. This is Nike. So these are the trademarks which are used and they are protected. In India, trademarks are protected under Trademark Act 1999 and it is also under the same ministry which is protecting the patent. A trademark is provided for the 10 years. Next come the geographical indication or GI tags. It is a sign used on a product. So it is used on a product that have a specific geographical origin and possesses the quality or a reputation that are due to that origin. It simply means that it is provided to those products which have geographical specifications in their quality. So, Bikaneri Bhujia or Tirupati Laddu are having the geographical indication. You must have also heard about products like champagne or the scotch. These are other geographical indication at the world level. In India, geographical indication comes under the GI of Goods Registration and Protection Act 1999. It is also under the Ministry of Commerce and provided for 10 years period. Next comes the copyright, from being copied by others. It is nothing but a bundle of rights given by a law to creators of, now these are very important words, literally, dramatic, musical, artistic works and producer of cinematograph, films and sound recordings. Copyright in India is covered by Copyright Act 1957. So as far as IPR is concerned in India, Copyright Act is the oldest one. It comes under Ministry of Human Resource Development. So there is a separate copyright office under the Ministry of Human Resource Development and the period of copyright is the maximum under IPR. It is for a period of 60 years. This is the maximum. So when copyright comes into picture in India, it is the oldest IPR in India and it is the longest IPR. Next is design. It may consist 3D features such as shape of an article and 2D features like patterns, lines and in fact the colors. Now you must wonder that what is the difference between trademark and design? Well, trademark is something which is used for commercial purposes only. On the other side, designs can be both commercial and for non-commercial purposes. So the MacBook Air or maybe a Dell laptop have different designs altogether. So this is what is known as protection of IPR under design. In India, Design Act 2000 protects the design and their IPRs. It comes again under the Ministry of Commerce and it is given for 10 years with a 5 grace years. It means total of 15 years. Next being the plant variety protection. This is also IPR. Under this, varieties of plants or different varieties of plants are given protection. Assume this. There is a plant A and it has only one species across the globe. However, there is another country in the world which makes another species of this plant B. Now, as this company or this nation has created a new species, they can get a protection for their species so that other nations or other organization does not copy it. I believe that if you are preparing very well for civil services, you must have heard about a term BT cotton. This is the term which has gained the prominence under this specific plant varieties. We will discuss about BT cotton sometime later, but as of now we should concentrate our discussion to the IPR. These rights are given to the farmers. So farmers are given the rights and plant breeders to encourage the development of new varieties of plant. So in fact, farmers can also go for hybridization of plants through taking seeds and final products of different plants. So farmer can combine plant A with plant B in order to produce a new species of plant C, and through this they can get protection under the law. In India, Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Right Act 2011. Well, this act is under amendment and new bill was introduced in the year 2020. So you should have some basic ideas about that as well. Apart from the other IPR, this IPR comes under the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, with a simple common sense, you can connect the plant varieties with that of the Ministry of Agriculture because farmers are part of this. The IPR provided is for the 15 years to the field crop like maybe wheat, rice or maize, and 18 years for trees and vines. And last in the list is semiconductors and integrated layouts. Well, my engineer friends would be well aware of what these conductors and layouts are. Semiconductor layout design means a layout of transistors and other circuitry elements and expressed in any manner in semiconductors integrated circuits. So you must have seen those small transistors in day-to-day life. They have different designs, they have different process, they have different functioning altogether, and in order to bring a kind of protection to them so that others may not copy it, semiconductors are provided IPR protections. So in India we have Semiconductors and Integrated Layout Design Act 2000, and it comes under the Ministry of Communication and IT. Never get confused with the different ministries which are protecting the IPR. The period for which IPR is provided is 10 years. Now through all these 7 different kind of IPR protection, there are some conclusion which you can make. First, the minimum IPR provided is 10 years and the maximum is 60 years. From 7 different IPRs, 4 comes under Ministry of Commerce, which are of commercial nature. 1 comes under Ministry of Agriculture because farmers are associated. 1 comes under Ministry of Communication because transistors and conductors are associated. And 1 comes under Ministry of HRD because art and literature is concerned. So it is easy to connect your ministry and the IPR. And lastly, there are different acts or legal status for each IPR regime in India, oldest being the Copyright Act and the newest being the Plant Variety Protection Act. Moving ahead, now we will see what is this institutional status in India. Well, CPAM or the Cell for IPR Promotion and Management has been created as a professional body. So these are the people who have professional knowledge, both legal and technical in the IPR under the aegis of DPIIT. Now, I want you to comment what DPIIT in India is. Which department actually is represented by this? Please comment in the comment box. This organization takes forward the implementation of National IPR Policy 2016. The function of CPAMs are very simple. It is working towards the creating of public awareness about the IPR in the country. So they are telling people that, sir and ma'am, we have a kind of IPR in the country, and if you are making anything, if you are holding a kind of a different product and intellectual ability, you will get protection. It also helps in promoting the filing of the IPR. So they allow you to go and file for your intellectual prowess. It is also providing inventors with the platform to commercialize their IPR. Suppose there is a company which has invented a particular drug. However, they does not have ability to go for commercialization. So CPAM will help them to commercialize, to construct those infrastructure which can help them to produce at mass scale and even for advertisement. It also helps in coordinating the implementation of national IPR policy, as we have discussed previously, in collaboration with the government ministries, departments and other stakeholders. And other stakeholders include your private sector, your state governments, NGOs, cooperative sectors, including the farmer cooperatives and commercial or trade bodies. Now we will see two basic issues which are faced in India or which are faced by the outsider organizations in India. First being the evergreening of the patents for multinational companies. Now what is evergreening? Evergreening means staying similar or as it is for n number of time. For instance, we have just discussed that I patent is provided for 20 years. What if after 20 years the company comes back and says, sir, we have added one special features, so now you can give us a patent of another 40 years. And similarly after that they come for next 20, next 20 and next 20. So they will always hold that advantage of having the ever greening of their patents. In order to prevent that and in order to provide a kind of mass acceptance to intellectual property, government in India has provided a different angle to this evergreening of patents. Evergreening is a strategy of extending the terms of granted patent which is about to expire without increasing the therapeutic efficacy in order to retain the royalties. Now what does it mean? Suppose there is a drug with the quality A and it has total 10 different abilities to fight a specific disease. However, it is now under the threat because it is going to lose its 20 years of patent. What the company has done, now they have come up with a drug B with all those same 10 previous features. What they have changed? They might have changed the color of the medicine, or they might have changed the basic formula of the medicine or maybe the API. And they are saying that they have created altogether a new drug. But this is nothing but a kind of cheating which they are doing in order to gain the patent protection and commercialize and earn billions of dollars. So in order to protect that and in order to provide the health security to the public, what government of India has done, they have added a section 3D in the Indian Patent Act where India did not support patents for inventions which are minor modifications. So minor modification, as I've discussed, they can change the color, basics and others. And through this, India has prevented undue monopoly during the extended period of patent protection by the company. So now if there is a drug A and it has lost the patent, it can be created as a drug B in the country as, most importantly, the generic form. So there are hundreds and thousands of drugs across the world which have lost their patents and now are working under the generic regime. The second issue which is faced in India or which is faced by the commercial entity is the compulsory licensing. Now what compulsory licensing is? It is nothing but an authorization given to the third party by the government to make, sell or use a particular patented product without the need of permission to the patent holder or the patent owner. Assume that there is a drug with the name A and it is holding a patent of 20 years. But because of the medical emergency, what India has done, they have provided a compulsory license to the company X to produce A, which was produced by company Y. Now company X will take the ingredients of A to produce another drug B, which will have same formula and everything else, although the brand name would change. And the company X will produce this new drug B within the period of the patent holding. Now normally what happens that company Y would be producing drug A with patents and no other one would be producing the same. But under compulsory license, third party, because first party was company Y, second party was government and third party is nothing but the company X. So company X will produce this B within the period of 20 years or in fact after that. Compulsory licensing in India is given under Indian Patent Act 1970 and it is backed by TRIPS as well. It is available to the developing country. It is nothing a kind of a temporary waiver which is only given to the developing country. So US does not use compulsory licensing for its drug manufacturing. Under section 84, you should know these two sections. First one was the 3D and under 84 is the second one. Under section 84 of IPA, company can acquire a compulsory licensing or compulsory license for private commercial use under certain circumstances. So private commercial use means the company X which was producing the drug Company X, which was producing the drug B, can use the drug B as commercial. It means they can sell that for profit. There is a note of caution. With a drug price control order, the company need to justify the price of a drug with regards to the investment. Assume that company X has produced the drug B and they have priced it at, let's say, 150 rupees per piece. The original price of the drug was 160 rupees. Now the company which is producing this drug should satisfy the government under drug price control order that they are charging 150 rupees and saving 10 rupees only for a specific purpose. And if there is any other company which say they can produce it at the price of 50 per piece, then government will take up the compulsory licensing from X and give it to the other company who can produce the same drug at a cheaper price, because compulsory licensing is given to benefit the masses and not the private companies. Well, before moving ahead, I would like to make a small correction, which I think was a typing mistake. And the typing mistake was that Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Right Act was passed not in 2011, but it was passed in 2001. Sorry for this mistake, guys. With this, we now move to the next article for the day. This article is related to the recent observation made in the Hindu newspaper. This article talks about the digital divide which India actually as of now is facing regarding the vaccine access. As you know, current vaccination program is based on the digital access. There is no home-to-home delivery of the vaccination program and there is no universalization as well. So what government is doing, government is accessing the beneficiaries through the COVID application, and as this application is supported by the internet and the digital devices, there are large number of people across the nation who are unable to access this. The context of the article says because of the digital device or haves and have not of the digital equipments and the internet accessibility, people across India are finding it difficult to access the vaccination program of the COVID pandemic. Well, as per the article, this is just the medical consequence of digital divide. So digital divide is causing a medical issue in the country. There are many other issues related to the digital divide, which we will put up for today's discussion. Now, what is digital divide? Digital divide is any uneven distribution in the access to, use of, or impact of information communications technology between any number of distinct groups, which can be defined based on social, geographical, geopolitical criteria and otherwise. Well, let us assume this with a simple example. Take that there is a group A which has over 1 crore people and there is another group B which has another 1 crore people. Both of them are distant from each other and they are geographically and socially separated. Group A has a very high access to the internet, digital devices and digital technologies, and group B on the other hand is deprived of all those facilities. Now what will happen over a period of time? The group A will get technically, educationally, literally and intellectually advanced. On the other hand, the group B will go in the backward direction of deprivation. The important aspects and the consequence of the digital divide are as follows. As far as social consequences are concerned, digital divide strengthens the vicious circle of poverty. It deprives people from basic necessities and requirements. It creates a gender divide. It also creates social stigma, social divide, communalism and related negative social impact, as well as the social backwardness. On economic front, it causes economic inequality through haves and haves not. It also causes the problem to access financial services. As you can take the example of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. So people who do not have a good internet connectivity and a smartphone does not have a frequent or a periodic access to the financial services. On political front, lack of political empowerment and mobilization are difficult without digital connectivity. As you can see, majority of the political parties these days are accessing the voters and their ballots from the digital platform, including the social media. This also creates a chances of political radicalization. So there is a group A and there's a group B. One group is having high access to the internet ability, so they can access and analyze the data provided in the public domain. On the other hand, the second group does not have that accessibility, so they will be kind of following the orthodox practices and will follow their political leaders blindly. On governance front, digital divide affects the e-governance initiative negatively. So all those facilities which are provided through the e-governance platform would not be accessible easily, and the governance model will get hampered. And lastly, on the educational divide, as we are seeing right now, because of the closure down of the schools, public schools, in fact the private schools and colleges, there is an educational backwardness and deprivation, especially to the poor section of the students. Going by the other issues related to the digital divide, we can see that there is a limited digital progression in India. Despite the rise of 150 million subscribers in the last 5 years, which means about 15 crore, the growth only indicates that there is a rise in the basic telecommunication facilities. It means it indicates that the number of subscribers which have increased in the last 5 years are in the quantitative terms rather than the qualitative terms. So people are having more and more mobile connections, but the quality of services, or maybe the 4G services, is still not as dense as it is required to be. The second point, the urban-rural divide. We all know the accessibility of internet services is far more better in the Indian urban areas than the Indian rural areas, which was according to a survey conducted by NSSO between July 2017 to 2018. Just 4.4 rural households have a computer. This 4.4 is out of 100, and against 14% in the urban areas, that in 14 households in urban area have computer. It just had 14.9% of the rural household having access to the internet irrespective of the gadget they are using. On the other hand, in urban areas it was 42%. So you can quote all these data in your mains answer writing as well. Similarly, only 13% of the people over 5 years of age in rural areas have ability to use internet, which is extremely low in India's scenario. And on the other hand, 37% in urban area can access the internet. When it comes to regional divide of digital accessibility, Uttarakhand has the most number of computers in urban areas. Now this is a game-changing thing. Such a small state, which is also a hilly state and does not have high commercial activity, has such a high number of computer penetration. While on the other hand, one of the southern state of Kerala has the most number of computers in rural areas. Overall, Kerala is the state where the difference of the rural and the urban areas as far as accessibility to the internet and computers is the least. Coming to the digital gender divide, India has among the world's highest gender gap in terms of access to technology. Only 21% of the women in India are mobile internet user according to the GSMA's 2020 Mobile Gender Gap Report, while 42% of the men have access. Now you can imagine the situation. In fact, even in 2020, there are 58% men in the country who do not have access to internet. On the other hand, there are 79% females in the country who do not have mobile internet connection. And lastly, if there is one family, just one phone, there is a good chance that the wives and the daughters will have the last one to use it. Well, it is nothing but an outcome of patriarchy society in India, where male members have access to better facilities than the female members. These are the recent initiatives or the major initiatives which were taken in order to increase the digital penetration and reduce the digital divide in India. First one was the Information Technology Act. It was passed to make e-commerce and e-governance a success story in India along with national e-governance. And because of this act, we have seen what is known as e-commerce revolution in India, including the websites like Flipkart, Amazon, Myntra and others. The second initiative is Optical Fiber Network or NOF, and it was created to ensure the broadband connectivity to over 2 lakh gram panchayats in India by 2016. It has now been extended to Bharat Net program. The Digital Mobile Library is the another initiative. It was created to bridge the digital divide in larger way. The Government of India, in collaboration with the Center of Advanced Computing CDAC of Pune. So what it does, it has created a huge or a quantum library or the educational resources which can be accessed through different websites and portals. Next is the initiative like Unnati. It is a project of Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited. So now we are also seeing the CSR facilities or the facilities provided by the corporate sector. It strives to bridge the digital divide in schools by giving the rural students with poor economic and social background access to the computer education. Next is e-Pathshala, that is to avail study material for every rural and urban student who does not have access to physical books and study materials. And the last being the common service centers. These are the small accessible centers available in the rural background, and they provide all e-governance services and internet services to the people of rural India. I've also listed down two special schemes run by the states. First is Saur Karyan. Sorry for wrong pronunciation to the people who are from the Andhra Pradesh. Bear me on that. I think it is Saur Karyan and the e-Seva. These are the projects of the government of Andhra Pradesh, and the initiative is taken to make payment of taxes online. The second project is the Gyan Doot project from the government of Madhya Pradesh, and this is the first ever project in India for rural information network. So here what they are doing, they are providing the information accessibility to the people in the rural background. Well, this is not an exhaustive list. There are many other schemes like e-Mitra in Rajasthan and many others. These are the facilities which are providing or which are bridging down the gender divide and the digital divide in India. Now, if there is a question in the main examination regarding the digital divide, you can use these points as well as your own made up points to write a good answer. First way forward is the infrastructure. It includes the ICT or Information and Communication Development under Atmanirbhar Abhiyan. So government can use Atmanirbhar Abhiyan to create this infrastructure. There is also a need for efficient spectrum allocation in the large contiguous blocks, along with the migration to the new technologies like 5G in the rural areas. So recently government has also rolled out the 5G application and their trial in the rural areas as well. Next is the language. What we need to create more content in the Indian regional languages. As far as role of regulators is concerned, it should reduce or it should remove the minimum entry barriers, such as by reforming the licensing, taxation, spectrum allocation and related norms. On cyber security, the Ministry of IT and Information will need to evolve a comprehensive cyber security framework, because India is one of the most vulnerable nation as far as cyber attacks are concerned. So we need a infrastructure as far as security is concerned. And the last one being the telecom ombudsman. We have TRAI, but TRAI is not the ombudsman. It is a regulatory body. So we need telecom ombudsman in order to create the grievance redressal mechanism in the country and to provide better services to the customer. But now we move to the next article for the day. So the next article in the discussion line up is related to the recent social problem or the recent social issue which is arising in India due to the ongoing medical emergency. The context of the article, which was published on the page 6 of the Hindu newspaper, says that amid ongoing hardship, the problem of non-payment of rent, and rent here means house rent, especially by the families belonging to the lower strata of society, includes the laborers, the workers and low-earning families, has emerged. The non-payment of rent can be directly associated with the loss of income during the present hardships, which is been seen by the people who mostly work in the informal sector. So this is the sector where people are actually facing the hardships of the ongoing emergency. The problem of rent for the informal worker is straightforward. The article itself has highlighted that any kind of crisis, be it the medical one, be it the national crisis, or even the economic crisis, the issue of rent does not get much attention as that of the food and the income. You must have seen the case where last year, when there was a complete lockdown across the nation, government provided free ration and food items to the people. In fact, many of the NGOs came forward to provide such kind of help. As per the informal survey which was conducted in Rajasthan, many of the domestic workers in the Jaipur has reported that landlords are not favoring in waiving off the rent this time as compared to the last year. It means landlords were actually more lenient last year than what they are in the current status. Now, why this topic is important? This topic could be used for your GS paper 1 with the population associated issues and the issues of urbanizations and their problem remedies. This informal survey has revealed many important things. First one being that rent of such sections of the society, mostly working in the informal sector, formed 40% of the average expenses during the lockdown. Rent is a majority component of the debt post lockdowns. Rent has been a key component of vulnerabilities of the urban workers. And lastly, the above mentioned aspects of the rent crisis is not only the problem of domestic workers, but inability to pay the rent was one of the main reasons cited by the migrants in their decision to leave the cities. So this was the major reason why they were leaving the cities and walk along the highway last year. Earlier, the Ministry of Home Affairs said that whenever the workers, including the migrant workers, are living in the rented accommodation, the landlords of those properties shall not demand payment of rent for the period of 1 month. Now, what are the problems with the order of Ministry of Home Affairs? The order was in vague as it does not clarify whether the landlord should defer or delay the rent collection or completely waive off the rent for the time being. It means the landlord can say that you can pay the rent today, but I will defer it for the next month. So the exact amount of period was not defined. The secondly, it offered no relief or alternate compensation to the landlord. So government does not provide any sort of compensation to the landlord. It also offered relief only for the period of 1 month, which is very short given the kind of lockdown we had previously. Next, the most landlords relied on the rental income for their own sustenance and hence they could not provide a long-term waiver. And the most rents are unenforceable due to lack of proper rent agreement. So workers who are living in such conditions do not have legal deeds with them. Now we come to the probable solutions for this kind of crisis. The moratorium should be announced with a clearer enforcement mechanism and a clear distinction between what is deferment and what is rent waiver. The landlord should be offered means to assess partial compensation for the lost rent from the state, shifting the onus onto them rather than on the workers. Next is the cash transfer being conceptualized by many state governments must treat rent on the par with food and income support. The amount of cash transfers of the rent support can be estimated on the basis of rental market conditions. And lastly, states can also aid workers through limited waiver on quality expenses such as waiving off the electricity bill or maybe the water charges. All these measures can provide effective solutions both to the workers as well as to the landlords and can create a conducive environment for them to stay even during this case of emergency. With this, we now move to the next article. So now we come to the last part of our discussion where I keep up a separate government scheme and we discuss that thoroughly. I take up all those schemes which are relevant for this examination or which may be asked in the prelims or the mains examination. If not, they may be asked to you in the interview stage. The scheme which we are taking up for today's discussion are three schemes which are more or less similar to each other. These schemes are working under the Ministry of Water Resources, which is also now known as Jal Shakti Mantralaya. These schemes are related to the water conservation in India and to raise the level of water table across the nation. What is Jal Shakti Abhiyan? It is a kind of a movement, and in this movement what we are targeting is to conserve water in water stressed areas. It is a time-bound mission mode water conservation campaign. So this is a campaign. It is applicable to all states. Now this is the first difference between the three schemes. What I have done is that I have provided all those minor details which are making these three different programs different to each other. The first one being under Jal Shakti Abhiyan, all states and union territories are covered. The second is the officers, groundwater experts and the scientists from government will work together with states as well as the district officials in India's most water stressed districts. So take the example of Jaisalmer or Kutch in Gujarat. So these are the areas those require heavy dependence on the water conservation and water harvesting. So these are those areas where government will focus through this program in order to raise the water table and provide potable water to each and every citizen who is living in these areas. The objective of the scheme are very simple. The water conservation and water resource management by focusing on accelerated implementation of 5 target interventions. So these are the targets. First is water conservation and rainwater harvesting. Well, this is the prime objective and it should become a mandatory norm across the India, which I personally feel. Second is the renovation of the traditional and the other water bodies or the tanks. If these are already in existence and they are not in use or they have been under the dilapidated situation, they should be renovated. Next is reuse of water and recharging of the structures. Reusing of water means if there is a sum allocate, it means if there is a large amount of water which is available at the disposal, it should be reused for various purposes. For example, the wastewater which is generated through the RO services or your water purifier can be used for different purposes, including the watering your small plants at your house. Next is the watershed development, and the last one is the intensive afforestation. So if UPSC asks that Jal Shakti Abhiyan is also focusing on the intensive afforestation, do not get confused with that. It is also part of the scheme. However, there is a note of caution that campaign was not intended to be funding program. So there is no funding. I have never mentioned that it is a central sector or a central sponsored scheme. It will have X amount of budget. Nothing like is there. And it did not create any new intervention on its own. So there is no new program as such. Government is not saying that we will create X amount of canals, we will create X amounts of tube wells, or we'll create this and that. Nothing like that. So you should differentiate this kind of provisions in the scheme. It only aimed to make water conservation a people's movement. It is just to aware people that guys, we need to save water to the last drop. And it will utilize the ongoing schemes, including the schemes like Narega and other government programs. On the Atal Bhujal Yojana, it is nothing of a scheme which will promote the panchayat-led groundwater management. So it is not talking about conservation, it is talking about the management and the behavioral change with the primary focus on demand side management. So what is the difference between conservation and management? Well, on conservation side or on the Jal Shakti Abhiyan, what we were saying that we should save each drop of water. Under Atal Bhujal Yojana, what we are saying that it is okay, now we have saved enough water. What we should do, we should manage that water to the best possible use. If you have saved 100 liters of water, you should utilize that in the best possible uses. Second is the behavioral change, that people should have the idea that they should save and utilize each drop of water in the best possible manner. They should not waste water. So Atal Bhujal Yojana is also targeting the behavioral patterns of the people. As far as type of the scheme is concerned, the previous scheme does not have any notation or annotation with it. However, Atal Bhujal Yojana is a central sector scheme. That means entire money and entire fund would come from the center. Objective of the scheme is very simple. It aims to improve groundwater management through community participation. So all those people in the rural areas will be called upon and would be provided all relevant information to manage and conserve water. The duration of the scheme is between 2020 to 2025, that means 5 years. As far as areas are concerned, it is not an all India scheme. Well, previous Abhiyan was all India. This is not. It is targeting 7 states, and these are the water stressed areas. It includes Gujarat, Haryana, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, and finally the Uttar Pradesh. The components of the scheme are simple: institutional strengthening and capacity building. Well, capacity building or capacity component will target the behavioral change altogether. And the second one is incentivize components for the states. So states would be incentivized if they perform better. The total outlay of 6,000 crore is utilized for this, and 50% of it will be in the form of World Bank loan. So out of the 3 schemes put up for discussion, Atal Bhujal Yojana is the one which will get the international funding. And this funding would be repaid by the central government because this is a central sector scheme. And lastly, the remaining 50% will be through the central assistance from the regular budgetary support. So annual budget will be provided for this to the states. So if a state is getting 100 crore rupees this year under Atal Bhujal Yojana, 50 crore will come from central budget and 50 from the World Bank. And lastly, we will talk about the Jal Jeevan Mission. Previously, what was happening in India was that there was an accelerated rural water supply program. It was launched in 1972 and it was renamed as National Rural Drinking Water Program in 2009. It was a centrally sponsored scheme. That means funding would be shared between center and the state with the objective to enable all households to have access and use safe and adequate drinking water. So drinking water is the prime objective within the premises to the extent. So the first scheme was targeting conservation, second the management, and the third is drinking water supply. But now this scheme is targeted as Jal Jeevan Mission and with the goal of 2024. The objective of the scheme is to provide functional household tap. That means the tap which is there in your house should function. Okay, so it should supply water and not the air. Jokes apart. To every rural household. So it is not the urban household but the rural household. And the name of this program is Har Ghar Nal Se Jal by 2024. The add-on of the scheme says there is a critical role to the Gram Panchayat level to run and maintain the water supply system in their community and bring a new system for water user charges. It simply means that the panchayat will be managing the water supply availability to each house for drinking purposes, and they will also decide the amount of fee or the money to be charged from the each household. Water is a state subject under the Schedule 7th of the Indian Constitution. Hence, the implementation must be done through the states only. This is another component which says that it is a central sponsored scheme. So the first scheme was nothing, second central sector scheme, and this is central sponsored scheme. Under the institutional arrangement proposed in the scheme, National Jal Jeevan Mission at the central level, State Water and Sanitation Mission at the state level, District Water and Sanitation Mission at the district level, and Village Water and Sanitation Committees, but not the mission, just the committees at the village level that will provide village action plan. So these action plans will be created, they will be combined at a district level, that report will be sent to the state and to the center, and similarly the funds would arrive to the last mile. And now we come to the last part of the day, and this is question for the day. The answer to your yesterday's question is option D, and today's question is visible on your right side of the screen. Read it carefully and solve the question and comment your answer in the comment box. That's all for guys today. Study hard, study smart, stay safe. Bye for now.